Alright, been piling up the team previews on the channel ahead of the season. They've been a lot of fun to make, and with training camp starting later on this week, I've got a couple more I want to do, but one that was probably the most requested, especially after I included them in my most exciting teams to watch this season video, c'est le tricolore. Now we all know this team's still in the middle of a rebuild, so nobody's expecting them to make the playoffs this year, especially since they're in a division of death, with Florida, Boston, Toronto, Tampa, Detroit, Buffalo, and Ottawa are probably going to be battling for wildcard spots. This league never fails to surprise, so I guess you never know, but making it to the playoffs is going to be quite the uphill battle for this team. Now, does that mean that they're not going to be a competitive team that's extremely fun to watch? Absolutely not. I fully expect, if they stay healthy, knock on wood, for this team to take a pretty sizable step in the right direction on the ice this year. I would not be surprised to see this team still playing meaningful games into March and maybe even beyond. Suzuki's established himself as a bona fide number one centerman and had a pretty breakout season offensively last year. Caulfield had a couple bumps in the road but was still recovering from his shoulder injury the year prior, and despite that, the guy still finished with 28 goals. I'm expecting a big year out of 13. Then there's Slavkovsky, we've talked a bunch about on this channel. Just signed a big deal to remain a Hab for a long time, did a 180 from how he looked in his rookie season, and played like a star power forward for a good chunk of last year. If he carries that momentum, that confidence into this year, that's going to be one terrifying player. Then there's the wild cards. Guys who have shown some really nice flashes in the NHL, or maybe even with this team, and could definitely pop off this year, but we're at a point where it's still pretty risky to put any money on it or voice any guarantees about them. First up, Joshua Roy. Showed some flashes last year in a limited sample size. There's definitely some NHL talent there. He's most likely bound for the third or fourth line, but I do wonder if he can expand on the good momentum from last year and take another step in his development. Could he challenge a guy like Newhook for a second line role? Next is Kirby Dach. This one's fairly obvious. The injury history combined with the really good spurts he's shown to be the Habs solution at second line center in the present and future. It's a really pivotal year for the guy, and he's one of the most fascinating players to keep an eye on this year for me. And last but certainly not least, come on, you knew it had to be Patrik Laine. Here's a guy who, except for the year he got traded in season, has always reached or been on pace for over 30 goals. Now, yes, he's coming back from some personal challenges that kept him out last year, but it really seems like he wanted to go to Montreal. Seems like he's ready and excited to play under those bright lights, and he had that awesome quote about wanting to come back as a 40-50 goal scorer rather than a 30 goal guy. What exactly do we see from him? I'm not sure, but I think this is going to go well. On defense, even with the departure of Jordan Harris, this decor is just absolutely clogged, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. They've got plenty of options, plenty of talented young D-men. Like, even if they decided to go with these six, you've still got guys like Struble and Mailloux waiting in the wings and ready to stir up some more internal competition. For me, and I'm sure for a lot of Habs fans, the most exciting thing here is a full season of Lane Hutson. This kid has the potential to be an electric offensive defenseman, and probably the most exciting player on Montreal's back end since Prime 76, who was also a second round pick, by the way. Now, I understand expectations do need to be tempered a bit, and look, nobody's expecting him to jump out of the gate and be Quinn Hughes here, but he's got some pretty insane talent, and I can't wait to see what he's got up his sleeve for his first full season. Then we get to between the pipes, where, since Carey Price, this position's just been a whirlwind. I do see the tandem of Montembeault and Primo being decently solid. I do think we're talking about a true 1A, 1B tandem situation here. While I definitely do see why some people view 35 as this team's true starting goaltender, Primo showed quite a bit of promise last year. I don't quite think he takes the starter role here, but I do think he's good enough to be earning more starts than a typical backup, which I think throws this team right into an 05-06 Cristobal Huet, Jose Theodore situation, in terms of how many starts they're splitting at least, because Huet was so much better than Theodore that season, which ultimately led to Theodore getting traded, and Huet bridging the gap as two young guys by the names of Carey Price and Yaroslav Halak were still developing, but that's a story for another video. I see Montembeault as the 1A here, and Primo as the 1B. Overall, even though I don't think it's going to result in a playoff spot, I still think this is going to be a really fun season to watch for you Habs fans. Even with them still being in the middle of a rebuild, there are some really nice pieces here, and some other really nice ones on the way too. Just a plethora of interesting storylines to follow with this team. Let me know which one intrigues you most. Is it Slavkovsky and seeing what kind of step forward he takes this year? Is it Cole Caulfield now wearing number 13 to honor the late Johnny Gaudreau? He's still in search of his first 30-goal season in the NHL, but he seems like he's going to have a fire in his belly this year. Or maybe it's Kirby Dach. Can he stay healthy? Or Lane Hutson's rookie season? Or the goalies? Like, there's so much to choose from here. For me, it's got to be Patrik Laine. I'm rooting for the guy. If he can get even just close to his prime Winnipeg goal-scoring ways, they are going to go nuts for that in Montreal. They would love it. And that's definitely something I'd like to see. As usual, give me your thoughts in the comments. If you want more Habs content, you know what to do. Like the video to let me know. Please consider subscribing if you're new. I'll see you in the next one. You're awesome.